Hi Cancer, welcome to my channel. Cancer, as I mentioned in the Solar Eclipse Initiation video and podcast, on 10th of June at 6:52 a.m. Eastern Time, Sun and Moon will come together as a solar eclipse at 19°47' of Gemini, along with North Node to plant a new seed. We would have 6 planets physically parallel and anti-parallel in the sky with the karmic nodes, like the whole universe is conspiring to bring something to pass. In this moment of eclipse, after a period of reconsideration and confusion, we are meant to see things clearly. It may not yet be time to start anew or announce, or external messaging might still be delayed, as the ruler of the eclipse would be retrograde till 22nd of June, but the initiation of the new thinking, the new mind, that begins. A new thought form is born, which shows us our place in the universe, and from that we begin a path of regeneration, of moksha, of peace, of healing, of whimsy, and of fantasy. North Node is where we stumble, we get up, and yet we start again, cause it's our path of forward growth of this lifetime. It's our karma of this lifetime, which we must grow through and grow towards. Every 19 years, we evolve a specific part of our life through leaps and bounds. This is the last 6 months of this karmic growth and focus, which started for you in May 2020 in the area of your life which has to do with your faith, with your selfless service, with your spirituality, with your healing, with your soul's comfort, and your out-of-the-world creative ideas. The subconscious, the healing, the working behind the scene, the hidden pleasures and the hidden affairs, the escape, the fantasy, the hidden talents and skills, and the isolation all gets heightened when we have North Node in this area of our chart, which you do for the next 6 months. This mingles with the lunar eclipse theme of release of old ideology of what work and work environment is supposed to look like for you. A release that detaches us for wanting to control the outcome of our life too much or get involved in a rat race. It releases us from the focus on troubles, on a rat race and a day-to-day activity. Like an old way of playing the game is coming to an end. An old way of thinking of what service, what work, what healing, and what order should look like is coming to an end. Today we would not so much focus on this one event alone, but more on what these next 6 months are supposed to bring to us. What kind of elevation, what kind of evolution of our soul and our mind is going to come through with this thought form being released, and a new one which would serve us for the next 19 years, a new philosophy and a new spiritual enlightenment coming through, which will serve us for the next decade. We never stop growing, but Gemini eclipses take our mind and knowledge for a leap in matter of days and months, which would normally take many years to come. If you're old enough, this kind of evolution of your soul would have happened back in 2002. Your axis of work, service, healing, and integration of the soul is being activated over the course of next 6 months as one adventure ends and another one begins. As I promised in part 1 of this video or podcast, which is the overview of the solar eclipse which I did in part 1, this part 2, we would go deeper in this part 2 for your specific sign, what this eclipse and the other transits that are coming with it is about to bring to you over the course of next 6 months. My name is Charu and I'm your host on this journey. So let's begin. Cancer, we're going to start with talking about the solar eclipse of 10th of June. The 10th of June solar eclipse will plant a new seed of growth in the area of your life which has to deal with your subconscious growth, with establishing a place in the universe for you. Where do I fit in the larger scheme of things? Where is my value? What is my delivery? What do I bring to the working of the universe, so as to speak? With fantasy and out-of-world creativity in a overdrive, you'll be thinking of ways to add value to the world with the work that's done behind the scenes for now. with skills of imagination in overdrive, with the skills of wanting to help others, with the skills of spirituality, healing, charity, and a out of this world fantasy that you have. In some ways, since last year, your life has taken a turn to go more behind the surface, go more behind the scenes, to find yourself, to explore a different part of yourself which has not shown up so far, to explore your subconscious, to explore your hidden strengths and talents, as well as indulge sometimes in your own world of fantasy, in your own secluded world of whimsy and even hidden affairs. This trip has also taken you down the soulful ride of exploring spirituality, yoga, meditation, chanting, cause you are quote unquote finding yourself in the moment. We sort of return to the state of being in the womb in this transit, which you are having since May of 2020 and which will continue for the next 6 months, coming to a conclusion in December. We rediscover both our talents and our flaws, which sabotage our external growth and spiritual peace. We find ourselves sometimes entangled in activities which show us who we truly are and what our subconscious patterns, desires are. In those moments of surrender to a larger plan, we find pathways we never thought we would go through. We find dreams which we never thought we would manifest. We get out of this world creative ideas and create a world of whimsy and fantasy, which is sometimes tough to get out of, but you would get out of this next year. You would have to get out of it next year because the nodes will move in 2022 in your social houses. So you'll have to get out there with your creative ideas, but the next 6 months are not about that. For now, though this seed might reveal you information in June that's critical for you to know. Information which is important, which is hidden probably from you, and in some ways it will release you to move forward, though work might progress behind the scene for now till end of the year. You use your skillful mind and overactive fantasy and creativity to help others through the seed. This is the house of charity and selfless service, which is lit for you. We write, we speak, we create selfless work, and skills that help others are honed and developed. We establish some soul practices which support our faith for long term. We discover our hidden talents and assets here, which we did not know existed, and they have to deal with self-expression. We also find hidden support systems that we didn't know could exist. This is a very fated and karmic phase of your life, and a lot of things feel out of our hands. Like quicksand, the more we try to control the outcome, the more it feels elusive. There's a purpose to all of that. The purpose is a faith practice. The purpose is sometimes to grow you more spiritually than physically, because the leap that you're about to take would need you to have this faith practice. Seclusion is desired as you in some ways are spiritually replenishing yourself. The kind of downloads, spiritual and creative ideas that you're getting, you are not going to get in a mundane and busy life. Distractions are taken away or removed in some ways, even though your overdrive sense of fantasy is going to cook a new distraction a minute. But the moment that distraction comes in the way of your awakening, comes in the way of what you're supposed to do, that distraction in some way, through the hand of God or through another thing, is taken away. Because that's not the purpose of this transit. We open up ourselves and our hidden both flaws and desires to ourselves like never before. You are assimilating the whole of yourself and seeing both the flaws and the desires and the assets that you hold, embracing all of yourself. It's a cycle which clears your mind, clears your conscious, heals you in unorthodox ways that you never imagined how you would discover yourself, how you'll discover healing yourself in such unconventional ways that are not part of your belief system, that are not part of how you think healing should look like. The untried is tried in hidden affairs, in creativity, in spirituality, in peace, in therapy or healing, and in charity. We break from competitive or on the go energy here. What you have outgrown in usefulness is shed because you're coming to a circle, you're coming back to an ending where something has to be dropped. This is also the time before your season, so it's also a time even for the natural end of a cycle for you because your season is about to begin, which makes this a logical time when something ends. But these themes would evolve and color your next 6 months as we slowly but surely complete an introspective cycle of once in 19 years of your soul and self. What has been dragging you down in attachment to things, people, routines, fears, demons, unknowns is being released in this cycle. With the seed which you're planting right now, we start a new practice to release, to create an out of the world creative manifestation, which would not have come to you to start with if you were not in this situation of seclusion, in this situation of isolation. The seed is based on your discovery of your hidden talents and your strength and an idea which is out of this world. And that seed starts a new life for you. It's the time when we focus on our spiritual practice, when we give our time to those who need us, when we work behind the scene to create something outwardly when no one is watching. The seed of whimsy was probably first seeded in early January and worked on in the first half of April for you. But now it's taking a reformed form as you continue to chip away behind the scenes. Did you experience something similar in mid of 2002 for you, or maybe end of 2011? These are the two periods when these houses were activated for you. Mid of 2002 is more relevant. 2011 was an opposite polarity. Something that might have started in 2011 might be coming to an end. But the more parallel circumstances in terms of you shifting gears, in terms of you meeting yourself, you meeting your own subconscious, and you engaging a very different part of your skill set and of your psyche would have happened last in 2002. You could look back for clues of fated shifts which came out of nowhere during this time. And you would see something similar happen over the course of next 6 months. Let's also talk about Mercury retrograde, as that is an integral part not just of June but of this whole 6-month process that we are embarking upon. This is all happening in the house of your psychology. So the introspective period becomes even more full of epiphanies, active dream life, as you receive messages from within on what's your place in universe. Mercury retrograde activates a very different part of our mind, and there are clues that are given to us during Mercury retrograde, which we had till 22nd of June. It's like the unseen becomes seen during this time. Deep subconscious starts talking. Our dreams talk. They're metaphorical signs, images, songs. They talk louder to us than logical words in some ways. You might be working right now behind the scene on a dream or on creating your place. In parallel, you work on handling the past in some ways. Possibly you're processing a loss or an ending or a sorrow, or just hiding yourself away from the busyness to replenishing so you can contribute more without dissipating your soul with others right now. Honor in this period till 22nd of June your need to step back or meditate or sleep, as it's where most of the actual work in your subconscious will get done. Darkness or demons are fought and a new light is found. Hidden treasures are discovered in this time. Spiritual pursuits greatly help in this time. We are in the period when we are releasing forgiving the past in some ways, letting go anger which might have accumulated, even through going through a subconscious detox, which will make you feel lighter, renewed, and happier once you emerge post this retrograde after 22nd of June. It's also parallel to those silent years when we are sowing seeds of what we don't know. We don't know what it will grow into. We are sowing seeds, but in the current moment, we don't know what it will grow into. We are asked to work on truth, create a faith in providence, in the bigger plan. We're sort of asked to work in blind faith to some extent. Subtle vibrations, feelings, faith is driving your train for now. Those are your clues. That's how it has to be for the time being. It's that season. It's that time. Pay attention to initiation, some intuition which comes through within. Initiation comes from within, or the symbols, as some ideas always emerge during Mercury retrograde in this house for us. It's like a hidden hand of God or support which helps us move forward by giving us some clues. And they're given in indirect ways. Review how past has influenced your future. It's the time when we review the past, specifically looking back to May or June of 2015. That's when last you had Mercury retrograde in this area of your chart. And there are always lessons that we could draw from back then. And it's possible some past might actually show up from May or June of 2015. And in some ways, we are paying forward in this time. We are paying outstanding dues by serving without expectations. Serving without expectations of returns socially and artistically. And sometimes even in love, in relationships, we are serving without expectations during this time. And it's the part of every soul's journey. It's just that season for your sign. It's what you need right now. It may not be what you want, but it's what you need before the focus moves through nodes into your social houses in 2022. Or even in the current moment before your season actually begins. On that note, advanced happy birthday to Cancer Sun who were June born. Let's talk a little bit about lunar eclipse, which happened in your house of work, because that is also going to influence you till the end of the year. The house of moksha is never activated alone. It brings with it the house of work. There's a balance to be had, right, between work and peace. And that house of work and worldly service was activated through the 26th of May lunar eclipse, which will continue to influence you all the way till 19th of November, with a karmic or fated event related to work, job, work environment, co-worker, or even health showing up towards early September. It's a state of discord or imbalance, an unhealthy, possibly work project or situation, which we are prompted to let go or release, so we can let the universe fill it up with possibilities of something higher and different. Yes, that place might be empty for now, and you might have already got to know something that you need to release when it comes to your work. It could be a project that has to end. It could be a work environment which you need to shift out of. It could be a co-worker which is leaving. It could be a painful situation at work which we need to release. It could be a health ailment for which we need to give up something. But there's some sort of release or disconnect, a cutting of a cord that we need to create to let universe fill that space with the possibility of something higher and different. And that something higher and different will become more evident in early September. You in some ways are being prompted to work right now behind the scene till that time and focus on your spiritual growth and release some toxins. We are prompted to detox in health and physically, as well as like detox somehow gives us a clearer view of our life. It's like right now, if you detox, it would support your thinking in some way. It will give you more clarity right now. We possibly release an old philosophy on work, on health, on healing. But something needs to be given up to gain health and healing, both physically and mentally. You need to cut a cord with something, a burden that is weighing you down spiritually and in your health. It's a karmic burden which needs to, now it's time to release it essentially. And our role at work, or the work itself, or the work environment, would have to significantly evolve. Work that we take on right now, responsibilities which we take on right now, which might be too much, may not even be yours. Some of it needs to be taken away. And then the work that you do get involved in is more creative. It is more holistic. It is more whimsical. It's more what calls to your soul. It's more in line with placing you, helping you find your place in the universe versus doing it to serve others or taking somebody else's burdens away. It's about you finding you, and work is a means in some ways to find you. Instead of work being the ultimate aim, it is a means for you to find your place in the universe. So the work could be more selfless, it could be more spiritual, it could be like a spiritual practice that is your work, it could be creative, it could be a work of a holistic healer, a creative, giving education or hope to others who need, teaching on diet, being a mentor to others. And even if the work is related to publication, travel, multinational environment, cross-border dealings, marketing, media, but there's a release of old work form to give way to new. International work contracts would shift immensely. How we manage communication in work projects will shift immensely. Our messaging in work would evolve significantly through this process. Significant work and health shifts are felt especially by early Cancer. So if you are a Cancer rising sun or moon, around 5 degree of Cancer plus or minus 3 degrees, so it's 3 degree to around 8 degree of Cancer. Or if you are born around 26th of June, you're a Cancer sun, born around 26th of June, 3 days before or after, you would feel this shift in health and work very significantly right now. But it will be felt by all of you. Let's talk about the do's and the don'ts of both of these eclipses and the last 6 months of Gemini and Sagittarius notes for you. As the two eclipses intermingle and color our next 6 months, we would also be living the last 6 months of karmic growth North Node in Gemini is supposed to give us, and the release that South Node in Sagittarius is supposed to give us. In a way of road to success, these are do's and the don'ts of the road to success, keeping in mind that we will not get it right in the first time. We will stumble many times as we're trying to get the lessons of something new. But in the process of that, we are going to try something that we have never tried before. Give yourself the permission to fall down and don't give up when that happens, because this is a process of learning with North Node. Let's look at the do's and the don'ts. The first thing is, after a period of possibly tough period or of service or of long-term being under the thumb of some sort of responsibility or issues, or trying to struggle for a long time by trying to use your will to get things through, trying to make things happen. In these 6 months, we are being asked to stay still, have faith, detach ourselves from the trouble. The more detached you are from the troubles and from the chase, the more easily things will turn out. In some ways, trying to resolve everything by ourselves is in some ways the trouble here, because that's not the road to success during this time. We have to release a burden, physically a burden. It could be a duty, it could be a job, it could be a responsibility. We have to free our soul of some bondage of some form in order to receive what the cycle is trying to give us. We'll have to, it might even look like a sacrifice of some sort, but it is something that you need for your own health, for your own healing, and for your well-being of your soul. Normally, this is not the time to channel your services through regular channels or through jobs. It is sometimes the time we are on a break or a sabbatical. And for some of you, that might be extending since May 2020 when this node journey began. And that will continue till the end of the year. There's a purpose to that. You're meant to take this time for yourself, which happens once in 19 years, versus taking the responsibilities or the karmic burden of the outside world and of the others. It's the time of sort of being yogi in some senses. But in Gemini, I mean, even as a yogi, you're fairly active. Especially mind is very active. But a very different part of your mind and your brain and your thinking is being activated. And that only happens when we free ourselves from the worry of others, of the world. And I understand it may not be possible for everybody. We are in a very unique situation right now. But growth comes when you take a little bit time every day to be in isolation, to be with yourself. It is a very critical part of this journey for you. Growth comes from spiritual quests, by letting your mind go to places it has not gone before. Imagination, your imagination is on fire. And it's that once in 19-year kind of light bulb moments which you are experiencing. And you need to respect the flight of your imagination. Reading, learning, writing in isolation is going to throw unique and clever ideas that you would normally not get. You in some ways are becoming a channel of epiphanies and information which you don't know from where you're receiving. It's an experience of transcendence. It can only come through rising above. It can only come through detaching from burdens of others, from burden of mundane responsibilities, or at the very least, carving out time and place for this experience. We open a lighter heart to invite new experiences and feel connected to something bigger than ourselves here, something bigger than our current situation. It's one of the most creative times when a dream journal or idea journal is a must. You would be producing ideas which would serve you for a very long period of time because, as I said, a very different part of your thinking and imagination is getting activated in this period. We develop deep empathy. Because the intuition is so heightened right now, our understanding of human nature is really, really acute in this moment. It's also the time when we develop deep empathy by forgiving, by giving up any critical thinking for self, release any judgment, control. It's like the problem-solving mode is being switched off. So there are quite a lot of other treasures that can come to surface. It adds a very different flair, a very positive flair to whatever you're going to create because it will touch the other people at a soul level. Focus on peace, spirituality. Let your natural senses decompress in this time. Escape is not a cop-out. It's a need right now. And it's a very short period to give yourself to let your ideas bloom without getting all the external judgment and influences for now. A belief system linked to your work, how your work is supposed to be, and how is it supposed to be received, what format it's supposed to be received in, what is the nature of the workplace, what is the nature of the work colleagues, would have to dramatically change. In some ways, if we have got a sense of purpose, life purpose, from a workplace, instead of the higher purpose we have, we would have to release that hold that work has on our life. If we derive a sense of purpose purely from a place of work, then in some ways that will have to be released with a much larger connection you have to a higher purpose. You would have to, in some ways, be asked to sacrifice something or take pains to gather information about a subject which might be very unknown or obscure in nature, and you seem to be one of the unique people who are not scared to get it out in open. It could be a subject which is taboo, or it is a subject which is not talked about, or it's obscure in nature, and you sort of collect information on that and bring that to the world in some ways. You bring it out and it helps others in some ways. It helps in healing others. It helps in in somehow services. It services humanity in some ways, if it makes sense. But it could be a subject which is not easy, and you'll have to sacrifice something worldly to do that. It's like sometimes we are working on a subject which is not established to be a commercial success. And sometimes we have to detach from what the normal work is supposed to look like, because your work is so unique. Because you're working on something which is an obscure topic. It is an unknown topic. It is a topic which could be even taboo or not so talked about, but you get into that and you decide to go and take a tougher route. The growth in this time will come from foreign, unexpected places. The growth will come in spiritual spheres. Growth will come out of your out of this world imagination, which strikes in the moment of peace and even isolation, as you see things that others cannot see right now. And that is going to lead to development of potentials and clever talents that you yourself did not see before in yourself. In conflict, always just take the high road. You don't have time for those things. You just don't. You have just so much going on within you. There is just not time for the outside conflict. There is no time to get engaged. You'll have to take the high and the compassionate road in a conflict to move away from it. This is the period when your soul is evolving to find a very different kind of fulfillment, which comes by being of service outside life's rat race, outside life's one-upmanship. So you cannot just compare yourself to other people here. The comparison to other people is not there, because what you're creating does not exist right now. There would be comfort in going back to old ways, and sometimes when we try to compare ourselves with the work colleagues and what everybody else is doing, you sort of get caught up in it, and there will be a temptation to go back to it. But that's not where your growth is, and you'll quickly see it when you try to go to there. Like when you go to a place which you have already released and created a detachment from, you try to even go back over there, you know that you don't belong there. This is also, from a health perspective, an important phase in healing any ailment which you might not have seen before or which might be affecting you. It's the time when we find unique solutions to it, for ourselves or for others. You would seek information on it, you would actively try to understand it versus letting it go. And also recognize that unnecessary thinking or worry or this rat race might be behind some of that, and you would need to or want to find a lightness in that healing. There's more healing in lightness and in knowing what to do and possibly trying new unconventional ways which are different from your traditional methods of getting healthy. Even if it's not an ailment, you'll just try some unconventional healing methods for your well-being. It could be a time of psychological cleanse, with loads of fears and complexes being actively handled and released. It's part of your spiritual healing and detox cycle. It's a natural cycle that you're going through. We would come out of this phase pulling ourselves together, finding our strength, gaining a sense of oneness with ourselves at a spiritual level. The integration of self is going to create a very strong foundation for you as a person. The goals that are in focus right now, they are of higher nature. They would reveal a part of you which was unknown to you. Stay spiritually alert, light, read, learn, meditate, move away from any self-righteous or biased opinionated works or co-workers or situations, or the situations that create diseases of the mind through all of that. Take responsibility for your place in the universe by playing a much bigger role in it versus yet another person joining the rat race. That's not you anymore. That's just not part of your DNA anymore. In the last part of this reading, I'm going to address Neptune retrograde as well as the role of Neptune in this next 6 months, because Neptune is going to be now retrograde for the rest of the year, and there are some things which are going to come out on the surface which were hidden, which we were not seeing anymore. I'm calling this like the pink elephant in the room which shows up finally. Neptune is making an aspect to the solar eclipse, and it's also going retrograde end of the month. Neptune has opened your mind to philosophies since 2011, which you would normally not engage with. It's making a positive aspect with you. So it's adding a new set of mindset, new philosophies, and with that open mindset, you have engaged with people in religion, gurus, mentors, foreign partners, foreign travel, and they have elevated in some ways your higher knowledge. They have added more inspiration to you, inspiration, elevation of purpose, expansion of you. It is coming from those different interaction. It's coming from travel. It's coming from international exposure, especially people you connect with on a soul level, which are different from you, have different background than you. Multinational, multicultural environment, going beyond your comfort zone, going beyond your education and faith. And Neptune has sort of made it easier for you to skip out of your boundaries and go beyond it. But Neptune is also fog. Neptune is also rose-tinted glasses. So a lot of not so kosher people who are not so clean and are not truthful, and the belief system which are not so real, they have entered your open boundaries too. Irresistible attraction to specific philosophy or an idea or an affiliation to a foreign person or a person who's different from you can come in the way of you trying to reach your own personal spiritual high, as we can get hooked to another person or philosophy instead of finding ourselves. And you will see truth of some of them in the coming days. As Neptune goes retrograde towards the end of the month, a sort of a veil is lifted. Be mindful of getting dependent on one influence or person, as they will disappear as mysteriously as they came. Their aim is not to create dependency. Their aim is not to live in your life. Their aim is not to become permanent in your life or a source of support in some ways. They are here to open your mind and your philosophy. They're here to expand your outlook on life. They have a place in your life as they elevate your life purpose, but they are not your life's purpose. Neptune here opens a lot of avenues of international media, creative expression, and that happens through this process of sometimes dissolution, sometimes not so kosher people entering your life. Because you have to sometimes walk on the cloud to surpass your boundaries, and you do surpass your boundaries with Neptune. But what happens is that you will start seeing where you were going. You would start seeing where you were going with some of those people. So creative expression by expanding your outlook on life does comes, and it has a place, and it will come through these mysterious interactions and encounters of foreign nature. Heavy emphasis on these houses points to the benefit that you could bring to other people, because when we have seen something outwardly, we can show that to the other people. So it adds to the creatives in us, because you can actually open the eyes of the others to see what you see. Neptune is also selfless love, philosophy of selfless love. So when you have seen a dream, you have seen some reality beyond mundane, you could create a creation around that. But the thing is that you will find the practical expression of it very difficult. That is your challenge. The practical expression of it is the challenge. Because we can sidetrack too much into the distraction itself, into that ideal, into that person, into that mysterious interaction, into that religion, into that philosophy. We can become so dependent, so addicted, so attached to that, instead of trying to find a practical, physical expression of what we are feeling. But Neptune going retrograde will show you the way to do it, because it makes us come out of a fog. It will give us more realistic access to the expansion we are dreaming of. Neptune shows us a dream of scaling new heights, an adventure you want to take far, far away. But what about the practical expression of it? So that comes to surface, that fight comes to surface. It is also a question of heights versus depth, because what your growth is in depth right now, as we discussed throughout this podcast and video. The 12th house matters, which are taking you to the depths of the soul, are your source of growth. But it might be in clash with the adventure far, far away you want to take. So these two clash in some ways with each other. In some ways, we'll have to find a way to integrate the depth and the heights we want to scale. Even in personal life, there might be clash between wanting to find soul and depth in personal relationship and finding adventure. And this is a natural clash. It's not specific to you, but with these two houses that clash, that clash is becoming more evident in your life. And we carry the risk of being cheated by a foreigner or in a foreign land with the promise of an adventure. But that promise of an adventure will lack the depth that we are looking for, which we need to be careful of, and it could be brought to surface during the coming weeks with the Neptune retrograde. Neptune is creating a yearning for you to merge with something bigger. You just want to create something which is larger than life. You want to create an expression of life which is larger than what you have ever done. But there might be a sacrifice that we need to make in order to make that happen. And that sacrifice could be of ego, could be even of commercial aspect of that idea. Sometimes to create something outwardly which nobody has done, sometimes we have to commercially sacrifice as well. As much as I give you warning of Neptune about cheats coming in and you getting maybe lost in some ideal, Neptune has a place. Neptune is the higher octave of love. It is the higher octave of Venus. It is here to expand your consciousness. It is here to expand your goals. And you would be experiencing that right now. It's like a sense of adventure and what we want to create in life. It becomes larger than life. But the practicality of it is that we have to try to not lose ourselves to one idea, one ideal, one belief system, one religion, one foreign person, one foreign idea, one ideology. That's where we need to be careful of. Jupiter is now in your house of adventure, publication and travel. It will be with Neptune next year, which has not happened so far. So that is a big advantage. It will support you very much. In fact, in June itself, around 23rd of June, you could receive a sign of a positive support in your expansion and adventure. But the full play of Jupiter in your house of adventure, in your house of publication, travel, helping you create this larger than life vision you have and the expression you have would only play out in 2022. I have covered that in the 2022 preview video, which I'll link also in the details and in the comments, so you can review that. But that is more a theme of 2022, although something will come to pass around 23rd, which will give you a positive hope, faith in that vision. June also has Saturn square Uranus aspect becoming exact on 14th of June. It's an aspect which would also play out for the next 6 months in parallel with the eclipses. The themes are very much similar, point in the same direction I've spoken throughout this video, whereby you're learning to have the right boundaries with others as you try to manage this constant come and go of people in your life, which are coming to elevate and shift your vision, but they're not here to live. I have covered all of that in much detail in your 2021 video, which I would also link in the details and in the comments. That's what I have for you, Cancer. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video again. Thank you.